Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing the book meme that has been going around called the 7 Deadly Sins of Reading. Basically it goes through the 7 deadly sins and has questions specific about those sins related to your reading and book habits. So let's get started. The first deadly sin is greed, and the questions are: what is your most expensive book and what is your least expensive book? I don't really have a lot of expensive books. I don't tend to spend a lot of money on a single book just because I'd rather have more books because there's so many books I want to read. I tend to always buy books in paperback because I prefer how those feel, and also they're cheaper, and a lot of times I'll go to used bookstores just to pay less, so that way if I do want a hardback I'll try to find it there. I was looking through my bookshelves and basically the only book that I could see that I spent a lot of money on that I've kept is this, which is the complete works of Shakespeare. I didn't buy this on my own accord. I took a Shakespeare class in college, but I am really glad that I bought this book. I really love Shakespeare and I love the class, and I took a lot of notes in the book throughout the class, so it's nice to have those. In terms of my least expensive book, I would say it would probably be this one called The Three-Seated Spaceship. It's a kid's book. It's really old. I don't even know who it's by, but I remember buying this from a school book sale, and I think it cost me under $1, which is really nice. But obviously it's a kid's book and it's probably not in high demand, but I love it, and so I've kept it, and it didn't cost me very much, so that would be my least expensive book. The next deadly sin is wrath, and the question is: which author do you have a love-hate relationship with? There aren't very many that I could say this for, but one that I can easily answer is Stieg Larsson, who wrote the Millennium Trilogy, which includes the books The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest and The Girl Who Played with Fire. I won't discuss why too much in this video just because on Thursday I have my book review going up on The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest, so in that I end up kind of ranting about the books and the author's writing style, so you guys can just check out that video to find out why I have such a love-hate relationship with Stieg Larsson. The next deadly sin is gluttony, and the question is: which books have you deliciously devoured with no shame whatsoever? I mentioned this in my intro video, but one of my favorite books of all time is To Kill a Mockingbird, and I reread that all the time, but I don't really think that I would have a lot of shame admitting that, obviously, so I try to think of another book that I would feel shameful over. I don't really believe in guilty pleasures, so to speak, or feeling bad about reading, because I don't think anyone should really ever feel bad about the books that they're reading. I mean, you like what you like and you really shouldn't be ashamed of that fact. So I try to think about some of the books that people maybe other people would judge me for, but I don't really consider it that bad. So it'd probably be young adult novels and kids books, because I should be technically not reading those books because I don't fall into that age range, but really, I don't really care. So I read them anyways. If I had to pick one kids book that I read on a pretty regular basis, it would be The Phantom Tollbooth. I read it every couple of years. The first time I read this book was in elementary school, obviously, and I loved it back then, and I still love it now. I ended up buying this copy of the book when I was in college because I was just away at school and I really wanted to read it, and I didn't own a copy, so I figured I would just buy it. So I guess I should technically feel some shame over it, but I really don't, because again, it's a really good book. The next deadly sin is sloth, and the question is: which book have you neglected due to laziness? There are a lot of classics and popular books out there that I haven't read, but one that I am sort of actively avoiding is the Game of Thrones series by George R.R. Martin. I obviously have the first book and I have read it and I liked it, but it took me forever to finish this book. This isn't because it's a bad book by any means. It's really great. You really can get engaged in the world, but it's just kind of long and really dense, so it takes a long time to read it. I know that if I wanted to read the complete series, it would probably take me the entire year to actually get through all of it, and I don't know if I want to devote that much time to a single series. And also, it's kind of heartbreaking reading these books because all of your favorite characters will probably die. At least that's what happened in the first book, and I can't imagine that changing very much in the other book. But yeah, I don't think I can devote that energy to this series anymore, and I would rather do something else with that time. The next deadly sin is pride, and the question is: which book do you talk about in order to sound very intellectual? I don't know, I don't really do that a lot. At least I don't think I do. Maybe someone else who knows me can say otherwise. But I think the fact that I just talk about books a lot and I'm always posting about the books that I read and the number of books that I've read, I feel like kind of makes me seem more intellectual, especially compared to a lot of my friends who don't really read or only read maybe 1 or 2 books a year. So when I say that I read, 30 books or more in a year, they're kind of just taken aback by that. So I think it's just that fact alone is something that I kind of put out there. The next deadly sin is lust, and the question is, what attributes do you find attractive in male and female characters? It's not really anything much more than what I find attractive in real people, which is just I like funny characters and I like smart characters in male and female. So I would consider those very attractive traits. And I also like people who have big hearts and care for others. So if I can see those attributes in the characters that I'm reading, then I end up loving them a whole lot. The final deadly sin is envy, and the question is, which book would you most like to get as a gift? Any book. I love receiving books as gifts. I have an Amazon wish list filled with books that I'm interested in that I haven't purchased yet. And then when it gets to about my birthday or Christmas time, I'll send it out to my family or friends if we're exchanging presents that year. And I'll just be like, buy me anything from this list and I'll be happy. I'm pretty simple like that. But if I was to choose a specific book that is maybe slightly more expensive and something I would not normally buy for myself, it would be these Barnes & Noble specific collection that was designed by Jessica Hische. They are gorgeous and she's an amazing designer. I think there are 6 classics that she redesigned the covers for. They're hardcover books and they just look amazing. I'll leave a link for them so you guys can check them out as well. I think it's 6 books for $70, which isn't too bad when you consider that they're hardback books, but I still probably wouldn't buy them myself. So if anyone wants to buy me those books, I wouldn't say no to it. So those are my 7 deadly sins of reading. If you haven't done the meme yet yourself, feel free to answer the questions in the comments below. Otherwise, you could make a video response and I would love to see that as well. As usual, I'll leave links in the description below to my Goodreads, Tumblr, and Twitter in case you want to follow me on there. And of course, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So thanks for watching. I don't want to get into too many details, no. And I just kind of save that up and over later. Sloth, right? The next attribute is lust, and the question is, what attributes... Did I say the next attribute is lust? Possibly. The next deadly...